Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day, all Bills all the time. And now Matt Beauvais and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
From BarBill in Rochester, New York, welcome to It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Sal Capaccio, Matt Beauvais. We said we were taking the show on the road, and here we are. Let's go. Let's hear it. All right, you're watching here, but we're actually sitting across from each other. People don't know that.
I was so worried that we were going to have to do this entire thing in just silence. So please go back, everybody, to small talk and enjoying yourselves. It's really, really weird talking when everybody's sitting there watching. People always ask you, like, oh, you're on TV. You don't get, like, uncomfortable, do you? Oh, I get so uncomfortable. Absolutely. I feel all of the eyes in the back of my head right now. This is so creepy. But thank you all for coming. This is amazing.
I always say that just envision, if you're really nervous on stage, envision everybody else in their underwear. So everybody's envisioning you in their underwear.
Yeah, that's great. Just what they all want to see, I'm sure.
Hey, 1129 Empire Boulevard in Rochester. Thank you so much, BarBill. It's a great staff. They're having us out. We got lots of wings. We got drinks. We got really good conversation. And we got a Buffalo Bills practice today. That there was a. You hear that silence? That was what it was like when Josh Allen went down today.
Yeah.
At training camp practice. We have to start off with that. What did you see from your vantage point?
Well, it happened like 5 feet away from me. So we are now allowed to say kind of things that are happening in practice. We can't go into crazy detail. So what I can tell you is it was not a play where Josh Allen was throwing, and it was not a play where he was running. That's what I can tell you. So get a little bit creative when you're thinking about it. The play happened right in front of me. He was running to the sideline. He got taken down pretty hard. By now, I think most people probably know it was a guy who is – a lot of people immediately say, like, oh, that player's getting cut. That player ain't getting cut. It's not happening. He made a really, really big play against the Ravens in the playoffs.
Josh was catching a pass and Taron Johnson was covering him. It's been out there. We can say
okay, it's been out there. So Taron takes him to the ground. He very clearly was trying to slow down. Like,
he didn't take him to the ground.
No, Josh fell, and he looked like he was trying to catch him and stop him from ultimately going to the ground. It happened right in front of me, like I said. Josh was probably down for 5 seconds or so, got up, started laughing, immediately went to Dawson, who, threw the pass to him, basically. They seemed like it was fine. They ended practice on that play, and then a couple minutes later, he went over to Taron Johnson, kind of slapped him up, gave him a hug. It made it seem like they were good. Then Josh, there was a ton of national media at practice today, so he kind of did like the media tour. So he was walking all over the campus, and, it did not seem like he was running everywhere, but it also seems like he was pretty fine. Like, he signed autographs, he was meeting people, he was going to do all these interviews. It didn't seem like there was anything crazy that happened.
So there's two components to this, all right?
Yeah.
Number one, it's the play to make sure Josh is okay, which we think he is. I mean, would you be stunned if he didn't practice tomorrow, just to kind of precautionary, hey, make sure he's okay? I don't know. But there's a second component.
Yes.
Why is Ken Dorsey running this play in a setting where it's the first day of pads and guys are flying around? I think there's got to be a question asked about whether that was the smartest thing to do or not.
Well, here's my counterpoint. I think a lot of people last year said that Ken Dorsey was not creative enough. These are things that we saw with Brian Daboll. Heck, they ran the exact same play in Tennessee on Monday Night Football on a 2-point conversion, and it worked. So there's something to be said about, if you are going to implement these plays, that you need to at least practice them in some setting. And there is no place more familiar and safe than at your own training camp on the first day, when, even though everybody says they're going 100%, they're not actually going 100%.
I would tell you, though, that that's fine. Run that play as much as you want. Run it in a walkthrough.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right, but I don't think anything really happened. Like, it was very fluky. Like, that could have happened to Josh in any situation. That could have happened to Josh just dropping back and somebody not making contact with him but bumping into him, and then he falls on the ground. Like, it did not seem like, when they went over that play, I don't think the plan was for him to fall onto the ground and lie there for a couple seconds.
I just think you can minimize the risk of anything like that happening if you say, look, I mean, this is a play we want to work on, but if you put them in that environment where guys have pads on and they're flying around, something could happen that you don't want. I understand something can happen on any play where somebody slips, hits his leg. You never want that to happen. I would venture a guess, though, that we will not see anything like that in a padded setting going forward.
You know that scene in Christmas Story where he's got all the coats on and he can barely get up and he's rolling around? He's like, I can't put my arms down. That's how I feel like we're going to see Josh for the rest of training camp. Basically like in bubble wrap, and it's like, do not touch Josh. Do not get anywhere close to Josh.
Yes.
And honestly, you see everything that's happening around the league every single year at training camp. The most important thing is getting out of this healthy. Like, there's going to be players that get nicked up along the way. Making sure that your starting players, your superstar players, are ready to go for the Jets on September 11th. That's the most important thing.
Well, Sean McDermott said prior to, was it Sunday's practice, that there have been no significant injuries of note. There were a couple guys get banged up. Isaiah Coulter, the wide receiver, today he left the field. Looked like could be something that maybe to monitor. We had Kyron Brown, the cornerback, and wide receiver Brian Thompson. Otherwise, looks like everything's been good, other than obviously the Nyheim Hines injury.
Yeah.
Right before camp.
Let me ask you this. So by the time people listen to this, maybe we'll already know the answer. Do you think there's a chance they sit Josh for a day just to say, let's make sure you're, I mean,
I don't know I have no info on it.
Yeah.
I do think there's a chance. I think there's a chance because why? They have an off day on Wednesday.
Yeah.
You sit him one day, or maybe you dial him back a little bit. Maybe you don't have to sit him. Make just sure that the only thing he's doing, maybe takes no team reps, just individual reps.
Yeah.
It's a limited designation when we go out to regular practice.
Yeah, well, it's like the whole week of the Minnesota Vikings game where we had no idea, was he going to play? Was he not going to play? What was he going to do? What was he not going to do? I think I heard him say to multiple people while sitting there walking around that he was fine. He made it clear that although what else was he going to say? He wasn't going to say like, I'm hurt. He made it seem like everything was okay. I mean, the guy's a semi-truck. I think that he's going to be fine. You obviously don't want this stuff to happen, but I did not leave practice overly concerned about Josh's status.
I agree with you there. We'll see where it goes. In the meantime, there have been some players that have been standing out. We're going to get to those in a little while. Before we do, off-field news, great news. On Sunday,
yes,
Kim Pegula was at practice. She stayed in the vehicle that she was in with Terry and the family and security right there. But Matt, 14 months removed, essentially, from her medical event. I say it like that because I don't want to get it wrong if I say that's wrong.
Yeah.
You can correct me. Cardiac arrest, heart attack, stroke, wake, the way you want to term it. I say medical event because of that. In any regard, just want to be respectful. It was great to see her, the fact that she was just out there.
For sure. I think that that's a step in the right direction, right? You went from seeing her everywhere, every place. Sabres, Bills, events in the community. She was all over the place. She was super involved. That's one of the reasons why so many people love her. And then for her to not be around, like I remember the stadium ceremony for the groundbreaking, and it was weird that she wasn't there. And you wondered, like, man, I really wish that she could have been there. And I know a lot of people probably felt the same way because she was so involved in those negotiations before everything happened. So I think this is a step in the right direction. Obviously, making sure she's healthy is the most important thing. But it's a good sign as you continue to try and, battle your way back, get healthier. And who knows if life ever gets back to what it was, but hopefully just being more involved and being more around. I think that's what everybody wants to see.
No doubt about it. A great step. Great news. Kim Pegula showing up at practice. So you and I are both Italian. We both talk a lot. We both use our hands.
Yeah.
I'm worried one of these glasses is going to fall because you're sitting there shaking.
Am I shaking the table?
No, it's okay. And I love it because I'm like, this is great. Matt, talk hands like I do. I'm away from it, but I bet you I'd be doing it. Thank God I'm not here because I think we would actually shake these drinks down basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we do, then we're going to have to cut the podcast short because they might short circuit a little bit, but that's just the way it is.
We're not going to be eating during the podcast. We're going to do that a little bit later. When we do eat, we're going to be getting some wings real quick off the top. Favorite wing from BarBill?
Cajun honey butter barbecue. It's not even a question. I don't even think there's anything.
Cajun honey barbecue.
Cajun honey butter barbecue.
Oh.
Have you never had this wing?
I have not.
Oh my gosh.
Tonight will be the first time because
tonight you get to try it. Cajun honey butter barbecue is legitimately, I'm not just saying this because we're here, my favorite wing on the planet. Not kidding. Okay. It is that good. I think it's like the favorite wing of most of the guys on the team too. I mean, BarBill's right there. It's 10 minutes from the stadium. They go a ton. I can't believe that you've never had it. Like that, I'm almost like a little bit shocked that you haven't had it.
I don't know. I mean, I may have had it at other places. Haven't had it at BarBill.
You got to have it tonight.
Okay.
And Jenna's going to try it also. Jenna Cottrell from Wham just walked in. Have you had it? But not Cajun honey butter barbecue? Okay.
We'll have Jenna join us here in a little while. Talk some wings. Yes. Talk about the Buffalo Bills. By the way, you bring it up a great point. BarBill in Rochester, BarBill in East Aurora. I mean, they've expanded out here.
And Clarence. And the North Towns. Go North Towns.
That's right. So wherever you want to go, there's going to be a BarBill somewhere. And, you know, we're really happy that they're having us here.
You know about the whole regular thing at the East Aurora location, that if you're a regular, you get the mug and it stays on the wall?
No.
So back in the day, I mean, I guess that started years and years and years ago. I don't know if it still goes on because I don't spend a ton of time in East Aurora, but I do know back in the day, like my dad went to BarBill all the time because he was an East Aurora guy. He lived right on the border of Elma and East Aurora. They've been cranking out unbelievable wings for a long, and it's not just wings, it's beef on weck too.
All right. So
are you a beef on weck guy?
Yes, I do like beef on weck.
Yeah.
I actually went to the Bison's game. I got beef on weck like about 3 weeks ago.
Where'd you go?
The Bison's game.
Oh, they got good ones there?
Yeah, beef on weck sitting right there. You can get it. Some right there. They have a beef on weck station, you know, to go, and they have a pizza station and whatever, ice cream. And there was beef on weck right there. Audio. If you're listening on audio, thank you so much. iTunes, Spotify, wherever that is. But we are on video. We're doing this on video today. However you consume us, we totally appreciate it at Sal Sports on the YouTube channel. So thank you. All right, let's get into training camp and some of the on-field issues that are going on. Shouldn't say it like an issue, like a problem, but some of the hot topics we've been talking about, including who's going to win the middle linebacker spot.
Yeah. Wow, you're going right to linebacker, huh? I love it.
I do.
Holding back no punches.
Listen.
We've done entire episodes about middle linebacker.
Well, let's do it. Middle linebacker, Balen Spector, Tyrell Dodson, Terrell Bernard, A.J. Klein. It seems to me like every single one of them is getting run. Balen Spector has gone from the second team to the first team back to the third team. And I don't think that's because of his play.
No.
I think that's because that's the plan to get these guys more reps.
Yeah. Well, I think that for Balen Spector, that's how he's going to make the team. I'm not ready to talk about Balen Spector as the starting middle linebacker on this team, but I am willing to say, like, I think he's going to make the team. That was not a foregone conclusion a week ago. But, I mean, they're giving him reps all over the place. They like the versatility. I would still say I do not think he's the favorite to win the job. I don't know. Do you think he is?
No.
Who do you think is?
Tyrell Dodson.
So do I.
I think Terrell Bernard has a golden opportunity to take that.
The reason I think it's Tyrell Dodson is because of actually a question that you asked Von Miller the first day, and his response to it with his tone.
Good observation,
like,
Matthew.
He, to me, made that seem like it's going to be him. Not like, oh, well, we'll see if it's him, because I know he got those first team reps that first day. He made it sound like, you know, Von's a pretty convincing guy. He made it sound like, yeah, that's the guy. What do you mean a competition? That's Tyrell Dodson's job. Of course, that changes day by day. I like what we've seen from Terrell Bernard. I think Balen Spector has overall been solid.
Balen Spector getting a little bit of run at different spots. I think this team has operated in a manner which leads me to believe that Tyrell Dodson will be the starter until someone takes the job from him, because Sean McDermott generally plays the person he feels is the safest and not going to hurt him the most.
Yeah, well, that's why I think Tyrell Dodson's the favorite there, and that's why I still think Dane Jackson, even though I don't necessarily agree with it, is probably the favorite to win this cornerback 2 job. I think that they will go with the guys they know.
Wait a minute. You say still. We did. Jenna's sitting here.
I never said that I thought he shouldn't, or excuse me, that he should. I think they shouldn't. That's different.
Didn't we ask on this podcast not long ago who's going to win the job?
I didn't think he was going to. I think he will now.
Okay.
Just the way.
Now that's right. So now you're saying
I got 5 days. I got 5 days under my belt.
But you think Dane, or do you? Oh, listen to this. I convinced you guys.
Well, no, she was. I think she was with you.
Okay, get Jenna in here for a second. Get over here and get on the mic. Get Jenna. Okay, wait. You're both with me now.
Yeah.
Okay. The question was a month ago.
Jenna Cottrell, Buffalo Plus, 13 Wham, joining us.
Jenna, don't be nervous. You're on camera.
I know. Oh my God. I wore a hoodie because I thought we would be casual.
It's okay.
Okay.
A month ago, we said on this podcast, who's going to win the job? I had Dane Jackson. You had Kyer. Yeah. You had Benford.
I think I had Kyer. You had Benford, maybe?
Benford.
Something like that. Yes. Okay. Yes.
And the reason I gave was exactly what we said. Sean McDermott plays the guy that gives him, and until someone takes that job, I can't see it. Now, I get why you think they could take the job. What do you think now, a month later?
I think it's almost similar to middle linebacker, where McDermott would want the younger guys to win. But at the same point, he's going to go with the trusted hand, and they're going to go to the player that wins the job that they can trust and rely on. And because of that, I do think it's going to be Dane.
Okay.
And I think, too, with both of the jobs, everywhere else on this team is so dynamic defensively. like with your pass rushers, with your corners, well, I guess Tre'Davious, with your safeties, those almost should be spots where they're not going to hurt you, not that they're going to like take over and win you games. And I feel like that's actually, I've grown up a little bit, because a couple months ago, I would have said like, you got to take the guy with the highest upside. But I think that's still a little naive, because you got to remember, like, this team's in their window. This team could win a Super Bowl. Like, don't give yourself more questions that you need to. You look like you're about to say.
I think this team is so good. It is a competition. You have to win it. You have to earn it. It's not the upside. I think this team is too good to be like, well, you'll take some licks in the field. It's like, who can be the guy that can be the guy? And they want to figure that out sooner rather than later. And I think Dane has had a lot of experience already. And you're right. The upside for a Benford or a Kyer Elam is higher.
Let me ask you this question.
The floor is lower.
What has been the criticism of this team, this defense, in the biggest of moments, maybe a little too passive?
Yeah, not aggressive enough.
Isn't there at least an argument to be made for one of the other guys that don't go with the safe guy? Go with the guy that might make the play, even though, sure, there's a risk there, but the reward might be better.
You know what's weird is we keep talking about like Kyer Elam. Kyer Elam had an interception in the red zone against Patrick Mahomes in the Chief, and that turned out to be a crucial play in that game. Kyer Elam had an interception against the Dolphins in a playoff game. So in big moments, he has made big plays, but for whatever the reason, it just seems like he can't completely solidify the job. Maybe they are being overcautious with him. I still think, though, if he doesn't win the job, it is a disappointment, given it's his second year. They used a first-round pick on him. I mean, we're going to talk later in this podcast about Dalton Kincaid. Like, the expectations are now through the roof. He was picked earlier than Dalton Kincaid was a year ago.
Look, I agree with all of that about these guys. But this team is trying to win a Super Bowl, and it just feels like you're going to have to go even above and beyond the guy who was our corner one last year when Tre'Davious White was out. Not just make a few plays, but I think McDermott, I think the way they operate is, I just can't leave anything to chance that I think you could get beat in a really bad situation. As much as you might make a play, I'd rather have the risk taken out of it, even though I'm not getting the reward.
No, I think that's very fair. And you can make a point to either side. You could say, go with the younger guy. There's so much more upside. There's so much more talent. Let him develop. Let him get burned. But also, I get why you're like, this Bills schedule is hard. Like, there are not a lot of easy games. They need to win. They need to win in the division. They need to start off with a fast start to the season. So it's like, I get why you would have Dane Jackson in there, because he's kind of the, I don't want to say safety blanket, but you know what you're getting. Whereas some of the other guys, maybe there is the potential for them to make big plays, but there are potential for them to cost you on big plays as well. I
drove for a long time a Toyota RAV4, okay? I feel like that's the conversation. It got me from point A to point B every single time. Yeah. I got 200,000 miles out of that thing. I drove it into the ground. I feel like that's the conversation here. It's like, that's the safe thing. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It's not the flashiest thing in the world, but it did the job. Right. But then eventually it was time to move on, and we moved on. But for a long time, it just kept fighting. That thing just that got towed out of my driveway so many times, and it always made its way back, man. That little Toyota RAV4. All
right, Jenna, stick around, but before you leave here, what's your favorite type of wing?
My favorite type of wing?
Chicken wing.
Okay, first of all, I'm a flats gal. Like, I'm team flats. Flats all the way. Flats.
You can leave now.
No. Okay.
Drums, right? Yeah, drums, baby. Yeah.
See, okay, I'm getting praise from outside.
You got super fan Sarah over here.
This is good. This is good because we can split wings and we don't have to fight. It's not a territory battle.
I've come around to flats more as I aged and matured.
Exactly.
Because I eat them a certain way to really, then this is why.
Yes. See, you're becoming more mature. You have better taste as you get older. The flats are where it's at. I think for me, I mean, I do love occasion. I love lemon pepper too. Like, I feel like lemon pepper is severely underrated, but then also like classic hot buffalo wings. Like that's also where it's at.
Okay. Give me a good place in Rochester besides BarBill, like a really good wing place besides BarBill, because they only opened about a month ago here. We're here right at the end of training camp. Obviously, we know a lot about BarBill from Buffalo, from Clarence, and from East Aurora. Are there any other places here that really do a good job?
I like Genesee Brewery. I like their wings. I think they're pretty good. But there's I feel like the standard wing you get anywhere in Rochester is pretty good. Like I feel like there's a place I'm forgetting. But
we hang out at the Pittsford Pub. I like their wings.
I was gonna say, I feel like everyone in Western New York takes pride in their wings for the most part. So I feel like you're gonna get a good wing really wherever you go. Some wings are exceptional, but for the most part, like I'll go and I'll travel, and other places you go down like south or west, they're awful. I'm like, what do you? It's simple. It's you fry it, you put it in the sauce, you toss it. I'm like, why is it so bad?
Mike Catalana just walked in, and we're in Rochester, and I think the entire room just stopped basically because Catalana was here. This is impressive. Is there like a smoke machine that he traveled? It's just like they put it out when you walk in the door or something.
I'm gonna turn the camera there for you, buddy. There we go. Now
I am not kidding. Wherever we go, I travel with Mike a lot, obviously for work, and it's just constant Mike Catalana. Are you Mike Catalana? Oh my God, that's Mike Catalana. Is that? And they'll ask me, is that Mike? And I'm like, yep, that's him. He's the mayor, unofficial mayor.
Sal and I live with this.
Just because you're Italian.
Well, there's a reason why it's not called a selfie in Buffalo. It's called a selfie. You can take one before you leave. Listen, we're talking about favorite wing. What's your favorite wing?
Favorite win? Wow. Wing. I thought you said win. I thought we were talking football. I am a regular hot, crispy wing guy.
Me too. I like medium wings. I mean, is there something wrong with that?
No, I like hot.
It's the Toyota RAV4. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's better. When I drove my RAV4, I knew like this isn't the best car on the planet.
Yeah, but there's times that wings get so far off the track, they're almost like not even.
Have you ever been to Wing Fest in Buffalo?
I want to do that.
So it's pretty. I'm actually judging it this year. No big deal. No big deal. And there's like a peanut butter and jelly wing. Like that's a little bit excessive. That's kind of ridiculous.
If it was just peanut butter, you'd be fine with it, right?
Have you ever had a burger with peanut butter on it?
Yeah, I tried that once. It was
pretty
okay.
good.
It was okay.
Like you'd get it again. It's a gimmick.
No, I wouldn't get it again. I tried it once.
Okay, well, that's fair. Let me ask you this. While we have you, and we're not talking about chicken wings, give me your most impressive player at training camp up to this point. I know it's a loaded question.
No, it's not a loaded question. I got to say, this is so – watch this. Oh, she thinks she knows.
I think I know. I'm going to say Diggs.
I was going to say Diggs. Because the bar is so high, and I think he's exceeded it, especially this early in camp. I mean, when, a lot of times guys cruise a little bit. No cruising for him. He is killing it.
You know what's incredible is we went into the first day of training camp, and the whole Stefon Diggs off-the-field drama was such a thing. And then from that moment, first off, he destroyed that press conference. He did an unbelievable job. And then he has been so – I don't even think it's close of anybody else. Like, he has been far and away the best player on the field every single day they have played. It's almost automatic. And I know some of that goes to Josh.
Sal's got something here.
Sal's got something.
Best player, maybe. Most impressive, though, because he has this bar.
Yeah.
Like, right? I have a different guy for most impressive.
Is it Dalton Kincaid?
Dalton Kincaid. He's a rookie tight end. And, you don't come in this league as a rookie tight end and do the things we're seeing him do on a daily basis, as good as he's been doing it. I am so excited, Mike and Jetta here, for Dalton Kincaid and what he can bring.
Yeah, I mean, the expectations for even a first-round pick are, each step you would look at Kincaid. It's funny, the first day I said to the guys, we got to put a moratorium on talking about Kincaid. It's the first day, and everybody's asking, and then Sean, the whole, let him have a practice. And then I watched him the next day, and I'm like, man, this guy looks good. And he does. Now, I don't think they're going to ask him to block a lot. He hasn't been hit really by anybody yet. I mean, he talked about playing at Utah where he had more fans at Fisher than he had at Utah. So all those things will be adjustments, but he operates on the field like a guy who knows what he's doing.
He's just so smooth. Yeah. Like I see him, he looks so poised, the catch radius, just his ability. And he feels like he already has that rapport with Josh, and just seeing that, like Mike is right. I mean, the expectations are,
Mike is right.
No, I shouldn't have said that. Mike, I should have phrased that wrong.
Wait, does that happen a lot at work? You guys work together. Does she say Mike is right?
Sometimes. Not not a lot. I say Dan is wrong. Dan Fates is wrong all the time.
Literally. That's Dan Fates, by the way, she's referring to.
The one thing I will say is, so we were recording this on Monday night. Monday was the first day when they had pads on, and that was a big step for Dalton Kincaid because you're like, okay, anybody can look good in a T-shirt and shorts. Like, how do you look when you actually have pads on? And these guys are prideful. Like, they don't want a rookie coming in here and showing them up like right out the bat. And he continued. Like, he had another good day today. And it's these little things of like him lining up in the slot and then being able to put the ball just a little bit further away from the linebacker or just a little bit closer to the sideline because he has that extensive catch radius that they didn't have with Cole Beasley. And I hate comparing him to a guy that played a completely different position, but it does feel like that's how they're going to use him. I remember talking to you about the podcast about like if he would set Bill's rookie tight end records, if he doesn't shatter them,
he only needs 38.
It is a disappointment.
Catches the Bills rookie tight end record.
The Bills have a horrendous history of tight end production. Yeah. So there's a lot of numbers out there that a guy who can catch the ball can get.
Who is the best tight end in Bills history? I don't even know.
Metzler's.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, it's bad that I probably don't even know that.
I think
there's not like a clear-cut answer.
I actually think Dawson Knox is approaching that right now.
He is. I mean, they had a guy, Jay Reamersma, for a few years. I had such trouble with that name. I told these guys. But, I mean, this was when it was like, oh, and remember when they got from Miami? Clay. Everybody was like,
oh, we're talking about Charles Clay.
He has some of the best seasons ever in Bills tight end. That's to his point about tight ends. He's one of the most productive tight ends ever in a Bills uniform.
Yeah. Remember the Josh Allen, the game in Miami? But I will say, for the down, the game in Atlanta, you remember the game in Atlanta the year after they went to the Super Bowl? Charles Clay was unbelievable in that game. He made like a really great, like deep, he was totally serviceable. He was dynamic, but
the point is their history of pass catching tight ends, especially when, you go way back, there weren't as many, but over the last 20 years, it has not been a position of strength at all.
Yeah. No, Charles Clay was serviceable. He was not dynamic, and the Bills are hoping to have some type of dynamic thing, especially with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. What do they talk about? The 1.5 personnel, all of that. But just seeing what Kincaid can do and the way he's been able to, what does Sean McDermott say? Like, stack good days. It's been impressive to see the rookie be able to do that. I look forward to continuing to watch him and see if he can continue to improve.
What is the bar? How many catches does he need for you to say that this is, and I know there's a lot of factors here.
I think 45 to 50, somewhere
I was going to say, you sign up.
You can't expect 60, 70 catches, I don't think. I think that's a little too unrealistic. There's one football to go around for a lot of weapons here.
But think about how many vacated targets they have because of all the guys that they brought in at the end of the year. Obviously, like, there's a lot of things that they're going to need to figure out. That ball is going somewhere.
Well, they still have Sherfield and Hardy.
50 catches is 3 a game.
He better, right?
I mean, Dawson Knox has been good. He's
high 30s, right?
Yeah. No, 60-something now, but his rookie year at 38.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Hey, listen. Well, we're going to have you guys come back on. Go to your fan club, say hi. We're going to talk about a few more people, all right? This is Jenna. I think you guys know each other. By the way, talking about guys who look good in T-shirts and shorts, Mike Catalana. I've seen him in T-shirts
and his Buffalo Plus merch.
So, be back on in a minute, all right?
So we talked about Dalton Kincaid probably enough. Do you want to get to our other training camp standouts 5 days in, 5 training camp standouts up to this point?
I would like to talk about the other people we have on our list. Yes, go ahead.
All right.
You set it up however you want to do it.
Okay. Before we started recording the podcast, wrote down 5 players each that we have been impressed with so far at training camp. We tried to not do the same person. We both kind of had Dalton Kincaid, and we both kind of had Stephon Diggs. So we can talk a little bit more about those guys, but we're also going to focus on some of the other people. I will start, and I'm going to start with another wide receiver, Gabe Davis. Like, I'm in on the Gabe Davis hype. Right. I really do think that this is the year, and I don't want to sound like a broken record because I said this a lot last season. It's not a secret that I'm a Gabe guy, but I think that injury really, really kind of hurt him more last year than maybe we gave it credit for. And I don't think he ever quite produced the way 100%. We expected. But the thing that's ridiculous is even if you look at his numbers, he smashed all of his previous career totals. So yeah, maybe there were a couple balls that he probably should have caught, a couple drops that he would like back. But I think Gabe Davis is on the way to having a really good season and probably getting paid a ton of money.
You make a really good point. I think, unfortunately, Unfortunately, the talk about Gabe Davis has not been how productive he actually was, and simply should pay him.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fair necessarily to Gabe Davis. Yes, it's a conversation to have, but the bottom line is he's been very good. And yes, I agree with you that the ankle really impacted him. This is one of the hardest workers on the team. Excuse me. The guy won the lifter of the year during the offseason. Second year in a row he won it. He works harder than anybody. He's got a great perspective about being in the league, coming from where he was coming from, how he grew up. His mom, he's a great relationship with her. He says she reminds him all the time, just be thankful. You're wearing an NFL helmet every single day. Go out there, have fun. Don't worry about the money. I love that part of him. But I think he's been super good, too. In camp on Monday, today, we're recording this. Great catch over top of Tre'Davious White on the sideline, in stride for a touchdown.
Yeah, awesome. And, the thing that I like about that one is that he made up for a catch that he probably wanted. It wasn't a drop, but it was a catch that you would have probably hoped he brought in along the sidelines. He then responded with another tough contested catch along the sidelines, and then that play happened a couple plays later. He's going to get a lot of targets, right? Stephon Diggs, of course, is always going to be the main target on this offense when he's healthy. Stephon Diggs saying that he thinks Gabe Davis could be a number one wide receiver if he wasn't on his team is not nothing. Let me ask you this before we get to our next player. Do the Bills give Gabe Davis a contract extension before the season?
I was all in yes on this. Going back, I actually made this prediction after the end of the season. Someone said, give me a bold prediction for the offseason. I said Gabe Davis gets paid before the start of the season.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not going to happen now, but I still think it's very possible.
Is that because of the Ed Oliver contract?
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did, and I do think that they will still want to keep him in the fold.
Do you think he doesn't because Ed got one, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I think it does matter a little bit.
Okay.
But that's not the reason. I think the reason just comes down to, can we pay our number 2 wide receiver the kind of money number 2 wide receivers are getting in the NFL now? I mean, look what's happening in Cincy. They can't pay T. Higgins probably, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
they'll figure out a way.
Well, I don't know if they will, but I'm saying, like, it's hard to pay your quarterback and 2 wide receivers, going forward. The Bills are going to have to make that decision. All right. We said Kincaid. We said Davis. We said Diggs. I mean, we said Bale Inspector. Are we going to still touch on him? You want to go?
Well,
the guy that we both talked about.
Well, the thing about Bale Inspector is I don't know if we're getting to the point where it's like, oh, he's going to start, but I think he's going to make the team.
He's been impressive,
and that's the thing that you need to check with him. Like,
well, let me ask you this. Has he impressed you at linebacker? He's impressed me.
Yes.
He made a great play in coverage the other day.
Yes.
Going deep, knocking the ball away from Kincaid before it got
Yes. Well, we talked about the deep ball to Diggs, but I mean, like, there's a lot of people who get burned by Stephon Diggs. That's not, isolated to Bale Inspector. I think he has exceeded my expectations. I will say that. We didn't even talk about him as we talked about Dorian Williams, Terrell Bernard, and Tyrell Dodson. Well, Dorian Williams is basically playing a different position right now. That could change down the road, but Bale Inspector has inserted himself into that conversation. And the fact that he's even getting the reps tells you a lot, because what was he, a 7th-round pick last year, a 6th-round pick?
Yep.
He made the team. He stuck around a year under his belt. I think Bale Inspector makes this team.
Oh, I don't doubt. He made it last year as a rookie. I don't see why he wouldn't. The question is, does he start at middle linebacker?
I don't know. I think
he has a chance. I agree with you. He doesn't. But I do think he's been impressive. I like what he's put out there so far.
I think Dodson is just the sure-handed guy. I think they know what they're getting out of him. In week 1 against the Jets, that's what they want. They want what they want to know what they're getting.
All right. Well, speaking of middle linebacker, you have Terrell Bernard on your list of guys that have been impressive.
Yeah,
to you.
Because I think that he's made the competition tougher than I thought he would.
Why has he been impressive to you?
Just because, like, he looks the part. Like, he's rangy. He gets around. He looks like he's communicating well. It doesn't look like they skip a beat. They put pads on for the first time today, right? So, like, a lot of this is based off of how do you look in a one-on-one drill? How do you look when you're off to the side? How are you communicating? It is really too early to know, like, oh, this guy's going to be the starter. Oh, this guy's not going to be. You can kind of get the trends of, like, oh, Dalton Kincaid might be really good. With those guys, I think it takes a little bit longer to try and figure that out. I think we will really know probably 2 weeks after the first preseason game, after we see how they divide the snaps, after we see how long they play. I think that tells you a lot, especially now with 3 preseason games and not 4. I think you can kind of put the pieces together of what this team is going to look like.
I asked Sean McDermott, do you have a timeline, a deadline when you want to have a starter? He said, I have my own timeline, like in his head. He wouldn't say what it is. What do you think that is? When do you think he wants to know who his starter is?
Before the second preseason game.
Okay, I was going to say before the third. I think he gives it maybe takes a look at two guys.
Yeah.
I think going into the third preseason game, you want to know who your starting middle linebacker is. But that's, to me, though, it's not after that. It can't be right before the season.
I think you want to know before your second because you don't want your starter to play in the third game.
Good point.
That's why I think you probably want to know so you see what your rotation looks like, and then after that you can have your sure answer of like, okay, this guy's starting. He's going to be one of the 30 guys that we bring to Chicago for the final. Is that it? Chicago? Yes. He's one of the 30 guys we bring to Chicago who's just going to run up and down the field before the game, and then they're going to wear a bucket hat and sit on the sideline.
Well, one of the guys that's been impressive to me that will be one of those guys that night has been the quarterback, Josh Allen. I mean, honestly,
yeah.
I know it's a no-brainer, but Mike Catalana said Diggs. We had the conversation. Josh was on fire the other day hitting Diggs. He was on fire hitting Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
I understand you can't hit the quarterback. He should look good. The quarterback should always look good in training camp.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy just takes it to another level. He just seemingly hits passes all over the field at all times.
It's the weapons that he has in the bag that are so impressive. And that's what's always been impressive about him. And he's added the short stuff. He's added the intermediate stuff over time. But, I mean, the guy just stretches the field consistently at a really impressive clip. The intermediate stuff, especially with Diggs and with Kincaid, has looked automatic. The screen game, they've had some good stuff and some bad stuff. But I like that they're trying it because that's been non-existent for the Bills. When's the last time they had a screen pass that really, really worked or a consistent screen game offense? They haven't had that. I think they're trying these things. That's what training camp needs to be. Try these things out. They've been trying them with Damian Harris. Haven't worked great. They've been trying them with James Cook. Those have worked a little bit better. Also, I'm not talking about him as one of my guys, but I think Latavius Murray might actually get more snaps on offense than I thought he was going to. I think that might be closer to the amount of snaps Damian Harris gets than I would have initially thought. So something to keep an eye on.
Naeem Hines injury, you never want to see it this way, but it's been beneficial for Latavius Murray.
Yes.
To get more looks.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then the guy that I did want to mention, one of my other players, was actually somebody Eric Washington mentioned earlier on Monday. It's Tim Settle. Tim Settle had his first press conference the day that they signed Vaughn and that they introduced Vaughn, and he walked out with the penguin tie and he started screaming, and everybody was like, wow, this guy is just going to be so much fun. He never really flashed consistently last year. You always wondered, because when they signed him from Washington, everybody in Washington was like, wow, you're going to love this guy. He would have got on the field a lot if he wasn't in such a stacked defensive line. Then he never really got on the field, or he didn't make a huge impression when he did. I think he might be part of that rotation more this year, and I also think that helps them down the road, because when you think about the playoff game, they were banged up at defensive tackle. That ended up hurting them. If they can have a little bit more of a healthy rotation throughout the year, and Tim Settle's a part of that, then I think you're probably happy with having him on the roster.
Yeah, I was disappointed.
Especially with Jordan Phillips on PUP still.
Yeah, that's right. They signed Poona Ford. It's going to help.
Yeah.
And Poona Ford's a big signing. I expected more from Tim Settle last year. I think he has a lot more to give, a lot more to bring. It made sense what Eric Washington said. He said he didn't understand how to be a penetrator from the nose tackle spot like we want him to.
Mm-hmm.
Full year in, that should help him. But he's got to be better against the run, too. That was an issue last year. I thought that he never fully got the speed of what I think was expected of him on that count. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't. When he was in Washington, he was super efficient. When he's on the field, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that efficiency last year from Tim Settle.
Yeah, I think that he's going to make the team. I don't think that he's going to be, on the field a ton.
Does Jordan Phillips have a chance of not making the team if he doesn't get back healthy?
No, I don't think so. I think he'll still make the team. I think he could be somebody they start on PUP to try and buy themselves a little bit of time.
5 D tackles?
Huh?
Keeping 5 D tackles?
So Daquan, Ed, Tim.
Poona and Jordan Phillips?
Poona, yeah. You forget about Poona. I think 10 is their max for defensive line. I think if you take the entire defensive line, 10 is their max.
PUP too would help.
That's what I mean. If you put Vaughn on PUP, or if you put Jordan Phillips or both on PUP, you buy yourselves a little bit of time.
Yep.
So, I mean, Leonard Floyd's a no-brainer. Greg Rousseau's a no-brainer. After that, though, AJ Epinesa has looked pretty good so far at camp. After that, though, that's 8 guys. You still have a couple other decisions. Is there anybody I'm forgetting that's a no-brainer?
Well, if you're talking about DN.
Just defensive line in general.
Let me look at my roster here.
Well, so you have Shaq Lawson, who you got to figure out, is Shaq Lawson making this team?
Floyd.
Bogey Basham, does he make the team?
I don't think he's a no-brainer.
Shane Ray?
I think Kingsley Jonathan has a shot.
Does Shane Ray make the team?
Probably not.
Probably not. Practice squad guy, right?
Oh, yeah, if you can keep him there. I mean, that'll be – if you want to keep him there, I think you can for sure. I think Ilianku, he's always been a guy they could use, but probably practice squad to get that guy in the practice squad. All right. I'm going to stay on the defensive side. I forgot to tell you this guy when we went over it, but oh my gosh. I think Jordan Poyer has looked as healthy and
he looks good.
As he has his whole career.
It's crazy.
He's looked amazing.
Yeah, that interception that he had on Sunday was impressive. He made a crazy slide-in interception. I believe it was on Friday, day 3 of camp. He is all over the place. Keep in mind, everybody, the Bills did not play a game with their fully healthy defense last year. Now, it's going to take them a little while to get to that point, but Micah gets hurt week 2. Trey was still out then. Vaughn gets hurt in the middle of the year. Then Trey comes back that same game, but you're already without Micah. Like this year, you could be getting a healthy Von Miller back at some point. You're also getting a healthy Micah Hyde, and you're getting a less banged-up Jordan Poyer. When Jordan Poyer was healthy last year, he was dynamic. He battled injuries all year. He had to drive to Kansas City to play in that game because he couldn't fly with the punctured lung. Right. So those safeties look like the real deal.
Well, to me, he's moving around great. He looks healthy. He looks energetic. And the same can be said for Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White, I like to call him confident Trey.
He's got his swagger back.
Got his swagger, no doubt. He's boisterous. He's having fun. He's bouncing around. I have not seen that from him in over a year because when he came back last year with the injury, he seemed like he was just too afraid to be like that because of the injury and starting to stay focused. I love what I've seen from him. He's gotten beat by Gabe a couple times, but that's okay. You're going to have battles.
Well, he's also
made great plays.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some really good plays. The one-on-ones are where you see the confidence, right? Like when he's going up against his other guys on offense, and he just looks like he wants to make – it does not look like he's trying to not make a mistake. It looks like he's trying to be dynamic. He's trying to make a play. I thought as Trey recovered last year, as we got a little bit further into the playoffs and into the season, he got a little bit better each week. But he never fully looked like himself. We won't know if he fully looks like himself until he's actually on the field in a real game, but he's going to get tested early. He's got Garrett Wilson basically right off the top, and if it's not Garrett Wilson, it's Alan Lazard. Like, he's getting tested, and he's got to be the guy that can be their lockdown corner. This defense needs him to be. They need a legitimate lockdown corner, especially with the questions we have at cornerback too. So I think Trey was a very good one on your part. I will go back to offense for my last guy that I haven't talked about. It's James Cook.
Agreed 100%.
A couple podcasts ago, I said I thought the split between Damian Harris and James Cook could be closer than a lot of people thought. I was wrong. I'm already willing to admit I was wrong. They want James Cook to be their starting running back to the point where Ken Dorsey, I think it was a slip-up, in his press conference, said that they were looking for the guys that could complement Cook. And then he quickly corrected himself and said, well, guys that complement each other.
That's right.
They are, even though they won't say it, I feel like in their head, they think James Cook is their starting running back.
I think he's looked fantastic. 2 things I want to say about James Cook. Number 1, it's almost to the point where I think we can already say he's the guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's a doubt. It's his backfield. Damian Harris will be the backup. You'll use him. Latavius Murray can come in. Number 2, and I think this is really important. Last year, what did we talk about James Cook more than anything this time of year? Pass catching, route running, great receiver out of the backfield. Because he wasn't going to be the man because it was Devin Singletary. We have not actually talked about that part of his game enough because we're so focused on how much he's going to run the ball. Matt, he's looked great out of the backfield catching the ball. He runs great routes. He has great hands. And he's going to be the main running back.
Well, that's the bigger takeaway right now because every running back during training camp looks good because they're not getting taken to the grounds. They're just getting wrapped up. It looks like every play would be a 4, 5, 6-yard run. So it's not the runs that have impressed me. It's the way his teammates have talked about him, and it's the utilization that they've used in the passing game.
Yep.
They're sending him down the field. They're sending him out wide. They're putting him in intermediate stuff. They're using him all over the place.
Well, James Cook, to me, has almost solidified that spot. We'll see how much run some of the guys in the back end of the roster get going forward. All right, the last guy I want to bring up, because it comes with a question. You said, and a commentary, you said you were wrong about James Cook. I was wrong about Osiris Torrance.
Yeah.
I said, I don't see any way Osiris Torrance is going to beat out Ryan Bates. I think they might think differently the way they've been treating him.
So I was over at my in-laws' house the other day, and the first question my father-in-law had for me, Blaze, by the way, that's his real name, my father-in-law, Blaze, he asked about Osiris Torrance. He was like, does he have a chance? And I said, he's got a chance. I don't think it's a great chance, but I think he's got a chance to get on the field. A couple days after having that conversation, I think the chance is a little bit greater. I still don't think he does. I still think Ryan Bates is going to be the starting guard week 1 when they roll out against the Jets. But they're giving Torrance some reps. Like, that means something. They want to see what he can do.
Did you see today that Mitch Morse didn't take a lot of reps? And I don't know what happened, but he didn't go off the field. He didn't really have a trainer near him, but he was on the sidelines a lot. So I don't know what the deal was, but Ryan Bates
switched to center, so Torrance go to guard.
That's part of the reason. But even independent of that, Matt, Torrance has been getting looks at the first team.
Well, keep in mind, when we talk about getting on the field, he could get on the field one of 2 very obvious ways. They don't like Ryan Bates' play, or something happens to Mitch Morse. Because if that happens, they will slide Bates over, and then Torrance will go in. So he's got multiple opportunities of ultimately getting onto the field, and that's why I think there is a chance we see him play. They also might trust Morse enough that they can just kind of lighten the workload for him and see how Bates does at center, just in case something does happen. I mean, call a spade a spade. Mitch Morse has had some injuries and some concussion problems over the last couple of years. They probably want to make sure that they're prepared in case something happens, even though they're certainly not hoping it does, because he was their best offensive lineman last year.
All right. What else you got on the Bills? Anything you want to talk about before we move on and do a couple of things that have happened around the league and what their impacts might be?
Just your general impressions. What do you feel 5 days removed from training camp? Do you feel better about them, the same, worse? How do you feel?
I feel better about them than because of all the hype the other teams like the Jets and Dolphins and everything. Then you're like, oh my God, have they really caught up to the Bills? Then I go out there and watch them. I'm like, oh yeah, they're the Bills. They're really good. And look at them. And the Stephon Diggs stuff is behind them. That's a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about that anymore. I feel better where I am now with them, watching them, than I did a week or 2 ago, because I feel like they're the same really terrific team that I've seen, and it's business as usual training camp.
The thing that I keep going back to is how good Allen and Diggs looks. I think that's a big thing for this team. Like, I think that needs to be one of those certainties. You have a lot of uncertainty going into the year. All of the things we've talked about, middle linebacker, cornerback, what's going to happen with injuries, all this stuff. As long as you have those two, you have Josh Allen and you have Stephon Diggs, you're going to have a dynamic offense, especially with Josh Allen. He's so good. He's the best player in the division. He's one of the best players in the entire NFL. You look around the division and you go, oh yeah, this team got better, this team got better. Right now, you take Josh Allen over Aaron Rodgers, you take him over Tua, you take him over anybody in the division. He is still the best player. So even if the gap has, let's say, narrowed a little bit, you still got the best guy. You still got the guy that everybody's chasing. They're probably going to take a step back. They won 13 games last year. You can take a step. You could take a step back and still be the 1 seed. You could win 12 games and be the 1 seed this year. You could win 11 games and be the 2 seed or the 3 seed. We've spent so much time the last couple of years talking about the importance of the 1 seed. I think there's something there. It is important. I also think you just have to get in. You got to get in and you got to get hot at the right time, because the team that had the fewest wins, that team in the 13 seconds here, they got hot at the right time, and that's why they looked like they were the closest to ultimately winning a Super Bowl, even though they didn't make it to the AFC Championship. Get hot at the right time. Stay healthy. Get hot at the right time. That's what they need to do.
You getting hungry? I'm getting hungry.
I could wait, but yes, I'm very hungry for wings. I kind of skipped lunch today. Because I knew that I was going to have a lot of chicken wings this evening.
Well, you know what? We let's talk a little bit about bounce around the league for real quickly here, and then we can start to wrap this up. And thank everybody here at BarBill for coming out to tonight. I know there's a lot of people want to kind of say hi to Jenna and Mike over there. We'll interrupt them because they're sitting over there, but we thank everybody coming out just the same. All right, so Joe Burrow. Actually, let's start with Jalen Ramsey in the division.
Yeah,
Jalen Ramsey out until at least December. Huge blow.
Big loss. Big loss. I mean, it was their main their main defensive addition, that and Vic Fangio. But now you lose the player. You have questions. Who's going to play corner for you? Are you going to go with the rookie? Or are you going to go with the guy they drafted a couple of years ago who's kind of been a disappointment?
That's Noah Igbenogany,
I don't even want to try and say the name.
And I agree with that's a great point, because Igbenogany has not been everything they've wanted.
No. And I mean,
that's why they signed Jalen Ramsey.
No, and we follow people around the league, and obviously Marcel was on the Bills beat for a while, so you see the stuff that he's doing, you see the coverage that he has from the Dolphins. It's a huge blow. A lot of people think Jalen Ramsey is the best cornerback in the NFL. I do not think that anymore. I think the Bills have actually had a lot of success against Jalen Ramsey since 2017 in that playoff game, but you know what I mean? Like, that's one less guy you have to worry about, especially because I don't think it's going to be much, but Xavier Howard looked like he took a little bit of a step back last year. I'm not writing him off. I feel like it's a similar situation to Tre'Davious White. Like, he's still Xavier Howard. He's still going to be a problem for this team, but now you don't got two guys like that, and that's a difference.
Well, we'll see exactly how that plays out in Miami, but let's remember, folks, we were told that Von Miller may be actually like coming back, and then all of a sudden, hey, we went in and cleaned it up, and there was an ACL, and he was out for the year. All right, Joe Burrow gets hit. Gets hurt, excuse me. He had a non-contact injury, starts running around with his calf, holding it seemed like. It was a calf injury.
Yeah.
Looked like it could be Achilles. They didn't call it an Achilles. Saying it's a calf strain, but it could be several weeks. He's going to be out for a bit of the preseason here. He missed last year preseason with an injury. Remember, he had didn't he have like an appendectomy, something like that? I think last year.
He's missed time in the preseason, I think like 3 years in a row or something.
No doubt about it. No doubt. So a team that obviously is also having Super Bowl expectations, you don't want to see that from your quarterback, but it shouldn't impact him unless he's going to miss any regular season time. Same thing can be said for Garrett Wilson, his ankle injury with the Jets, which I'll get to in a minute. You just want to be cohesive. You want to use this time. And obviously, any time that's not on task for Burrow with his guys, that's going to impact them.
The crisis averted, it looks like, with Burrow. Even if he misses several weeks, even if he misses several weeks, you know what I mean? As long as he's back by the regular season, you're probably, if you're a Bengals fan, you're like, oh, good, because you saw that injury happened. He's rolling out to his side. He basically buckles. He falls over. He's got to get carted off. Not ideal, certainly, but even if he misses a week or two, it's a lot better than it looks like it could have been. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, you're worried, but I don't think the sky is falling, at least not yet.
Garrett Wilson, the reason why I bring him up, this is not a serious injury. He's going to be back. He's an ankle injury.
It's just time with Rodgers.
Man, his time with Rodgers, he didn't have a lot anyway.
No, I mean, gosh, a couple weeks.
I think this is big.
You think it's big?
I think it's big for them to make sure they're on the same trajectory leading into week one. It won't be big for the season.
Let me ask you this. Does Dalvin Cook sign with the Jets?
I think he does.
Why?
Because the Jets are doing everything to go all in.
Yeah.
They are doing everything. And are they sure Breece Hall is going to be back? No.
No, you're right.
They don't have a good running back situation without Breece Hall.
It probably gives you a much better outlook at the beginning of the season while you're waiting for Breece Hall to come back. You can ease Breece Hall back into it. But what does that take? A month? And then what do you do? Because Dalvin Cook needs touches to be effective.
Right,
and Breece Hall was really good last year. I don't think you're taking touches away from Breece Hall, but then if you have both of them, you're taking throws away from Aaron Rodgers, who you brought here to try and win you a division title.
Agreed 100%, but I think their approach is we're going to collect all this talent because we need to win, and we'll figure it out.
The thing about the Jets is that they were still pretty good last year without having anybody. You know, their quarterback situation was the worst in the NFL. You could make the argument, and they still won a bunch of games. Well, not a bunch of games. They still won 7 games. So maybe you're trying to give yourselves as many ways to win games as possible. If something happens to Rodgers, he's older. If Breece Hall takes longer to come back, because you know you've got this person in your pocket, basically with Dalvin Cook. I guess it depends on the money. Like if the money is insignificant, then you do it. It's a no-brainer. It is also weird that he hasn't signed with the team yet.
No, I agree. Well, he probably wants a little bit more. I'm glad. I don't want the Bills to sign Dalvin Cook. What we said about James Cook. I also don't want them to go after Jonathan Taylor.
I was going to say, do you think they should trade for Jonathan Taylor?
Oh, of course not.
Let me ask you this right now. I agree with you. Would you trade?
He's great though.
Would you trade James Cook for Jonathan Taylor straight up?
Probably.
I don't think the Bills would. I'm just asking hypothetical.
It's not a 1-for-1 talent. It's you got to give him a contract.
Yes.
You're going to bring him in here. He's going to get paid. It's not worth it.
No.
You can't do it.
Well,
asset, contract, running back. Come on.
You're right. But it certainly helps you in a short-term window. It helps you this year, right?
I think he wants money now, though, doesn't he?
Probably. That's what you'd have to figure out. Would he play a year with his last, year?
And if he did, if he said, fine, I'll play the year and write it out. I don't know if you can do that. I mean,
man.
I don't know. Maybe you could.
It's tough. I think that the Bills won't do it. Like, look, they got a cost-controlled running back for the next 3 years. They will not be doing this. But it's an interesting conversation. I'm in a group message, probably just like you are, with a bunch of my buddies from fantasy, and that's the immediate thing. It's like, hey, Jonathan Taylor, and I haven't even seen the odds, but I'd imagine the Bills are one of the favorites to land them. They always are when it comes to these running backs.
Yes, they were on like the 4th team odds-wise. I got an email today.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
What else you got? What do you at? We're here at BarBill. We got Bills. We got NFL. Anything else? You tell me
before
we
wrap
this up.
I think going back to just the overall thought about training camp, they're still really good. And you're reminded of that when you see them.
Yeah, 100%.
You forget. Like, it's almost like a player that wins MVP every year, like when LeBron wins MVP, and you're like, oh, we got to try and find somebody else to give this to because we just can't have this every single year. It's like you go out to Bills practice, their offense has these playmakers. And I know around the league, there's not as many guys as notable. Like, you have Diggs, and then there's a pretty big drop-off. But they're got a lot of guys. Deontay Hardy looks like he could be a difference maker. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Dalton Kincaid. Imagine if Dawson Knox is a 1B or a 1A and Kincaid is a 1B. Like, you're getting more dynamic there. You like what you see out of James Cook. The offensive line, it's still too early to have a read on that because, they've been playing patty cake for the last couple of days. You're just reminded how good this roster. They won 13 games last year, and they weren't even healthy. Like, that's pretty impressive. 13 games, weren't healthy. And think about what they went through. You had the DeMar Hamlin stuff. You had a game moved from Buffalo to Detroit against Cleveland, lost practice, then had to play a game 4 days later again in Detroit on Thanksgiving, and you scrap. It's just, they're good. They lost 3 games by a total of 8 points last year. I feel like people nationally are just way too down on them, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
We want to thank everybody for listening, coming out to BarBill. If you came out here, we're going to hopefully do more of this.
Yeah.
Location.
Yeah.
And, wherever that may be. And if you come out to training camp, say hi. So we got a week plus of training camp.
Yeah. I'm going to push for the North Towns location if we do it. Just a little bit closer to Grand Island, a little bit closer. But yeah, I like this. It's been really cool to just chat with people before we started recording. Hopefully they go and they listen to this episode, obviously. But, you get to combine some stuff that's really fun. Talking about the Bills and Cajun honey butter barbecue wings, which are the best wings on the planet, in my opinion.
We want to thank Jenna and Mike for joining us here for a little while. They're at the they're up at the bar and enjoying their time with their fans.
Yeah, Jenna said she wanted to eat.
She's gonna go eat. We're gonna eat as well. Thank you so much, everybody, coming out. BarBill tonight. Downloading, listening. iTunes, Spotify, Sal Sports on YouTube, and thank you to Lucas Buckley.
Thank you, Lucas.
Great job helping us get all this set up backstage as well.
Yeah, for sure. I was a little nervous. You kind of talked me down. I was nervous about this. I was nervous about taking the show on the road.
You go on TV all the time. What are you nervous about?
Yeah, I go on TV all the time, but I go on TV in front of the camera. So all this stuff behind this, like plugging all this stuff in and trying to get everything connected and the microphone. Like, I hope the microphone sounds okay. We haven't been listening to ourselves because we're sitting across the table from each other. So these are the things that you're like trying to figure out of like, okay, let's make sure. I am lucky that I have other people whose job it is to make me look like somewhat competent at 7. I don't have that here. I got to make myself look like I know what I'm talking about.
You were awesome, buddy. You were awesome.
Thank you.
Great show. Thank you so
show.
much. Thank you all for listening. For Matt, I'm Sal. We'll talk to you next time from Bill's training camp somewhere along the way. Come on out. If you see us at St. John Fisher, make sure you give us a shout and say hi. Thanks a lot for listening to It's Always Game Day in Buffalo.